Lin, you play the most different character, I think, that you've ever played. I think people imagine it was many things, but I'm wondering about the conversation about Texan who flies balloons and why...
Typecast, again. It was very simple, actually. I was working on Mary Poppins Returns at the time. I was in London, and Jane and Jack took me out for a drink, and I didn't know what it was about. I was a huge fan of the Harry Potter play. I'm a huge fan of everything Bad Wolf has done, and so I was like, yes, I will sit and have dinner. And they said his Dark Materials, and I said, yes! And I didn't even know what the part was. I would have sharpened pencils for this. I'm a huge fan of the books. When my wife and I started dating, we read these books together. This is like part of our falling in love story, these books. And it's a beautiful coming-of-age story, and there's a love story in there as well. So they're in a really special place in my heart. And they said Lee Scoresby, and I said yes. And then I figured if they saw it, I could find my way to seeing it. And I love my demon. You know, I've been lucky enough to work at Sesame Street for many years. I write songs for Sesame Street. And when you bring kids to the set, they don't look at the Muppeteers. They're just talking to Elmo, they're just talking to Grover, and that's how it was for us with our demons after a while too. I had this amazing Arctic hare named Hester, and for me she was this beautiful puppet, and the puppeteer who worked with her was so brilliant that I would just be talking to Hester. My relationship with Hester is like, we're like our own little buddy cop movie in the middle of this show, because I think Lee's a lonely guy. He spends a lot of time alone in the air, so we talk to each other constantly. So that was my relationship with my demon.
And for you, Lin, you have a character who in some ways is out of our collective idea of a hero. There's a lot of in that hero's DNA that we would recognize, and you have to change it a little bit, and you have to play a lot of scenes with a very large bear.
Like you do.
And a rabbit.
Yeah.
And a rabbit and a bear.
Yeah, I think my first 2 days of filming were a very long, complicated sequence where I am literally pulling all the pulleys and ballasts on my hot air balloon, and the next day was like a 3-day bar fight. And I was like, this is just the most fun I've ever had. It was, it was pretty different from Mary Poppins Returns. But it was such a joy. It really, every day was such a joy. I remember thinking,
I love that joke.
I remember when we were finishing filming at the end of last fall, and one of the crew guys was like, well, you're gonna go on a long holiday after all this work. And I was like, no. Me being a cowboy who flies a balloon and fights in bars was the holiday. I have to go back to real life now and like write stuff and do other things. This was the vacation.
What was the scariest or coolest thing you got to do?
Oh, I don't think there was anything particularly scary. It was all really fun. It was a checklist of things I've always wanted to do. Is it a spoiler to say anything about my first scene? Is it a
Well, you have to ask.
No, I think you're fine.
Yeah, no.
You're fine.
Okay, so I literally come into this thing singing a duet with my demon.
Singing with yourself.
Yeah, on a big ass hot air balloon, which was a pretty fun way to enter the world. And but every day was a different kind of challenge. I think what's so fun about this world is you'll be doing a scene with someone and you're not just looking them in the eye to find their motives, you're looking at what their demon is doing. So every scene is like 3D chess. And that was a really particular acting challenge, and it was really joyous because everyone, not only on this stage, but in our company is of such a high caliber that really I just learned a lot. And I think that's all you can ask of any project. You cannot control the failure or success of anything. All you can hope to do is like get some more tools for your toolbox for the next one and learn a lot. And I had the best time working on this, and Can't believe we get to go back to summer camp this summer and do season 2.
Yes!
So we're going to start with some questions for the audience now.
Literally 2 people.
No,
Oh no, there's actually a lot. Great, thanks.
Oh my god.
There are tens of people.
There's tens of
There's
thousands
4
of
people.
My question is for Mr. Miranda. Could you maybe summarize why your Texan adventurer, it's fit for him to have a bunny?
it's an Arctic hare, which are about knee high. This ain't Thumper. And I think why an Arctic hare suits Lee is they can survive on anything. They survive in really tough conditions. They're totally scrappy survivors, and so is Lee Scoresby.
What's up, Lynn?
What's up?
Huge fan. I have a friend from Colorado who loves you. His name is Tullis.
Tell us.
All right, my question for you is, what was like transitioning from Broadway into TV and film?
Oh, that's an interesting question. It's been kind of amazing. You know, for me, this has been a really wild ride. I feel like I always wanted to do film first, actually. I really wanted to be Chuck Jones when I grew up. I wanted to make animated movies when I was a kid, and then I fell in love with theater in high school, and I feel like I'm making my way back to my first love. But I kind of go into every project like I'm an apprentice. And so I feel like I learned so much on every project. There used to be these commercials when I was a kid. There was DeVry Technical Institute. Do you know what I'm talking about? And they're like, every month you learn to use a tool, and once you learn to use that tool goes in your toolbox, and by the end of 2 years you'll have a degree from DeVry. And that's how I think of every job I take. I'm getting another little tool for my tool belt.